Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, it's the Journalists Roundtable. We'll look at the week's top stories, including the state treasurer announcing her candidacy for superintendent of public instruction. Journalists Roundtable is next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your public television station.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. It's Friday. That means it's time for the Journalists Roundtable. And joining us tonight, Mary Jo Pitzel of the Arizona Republic and azcentral.com, Howie Fisher of Capital Media Services, and Wayne Chutsky of KJZZ Radio. Panel, good to have you all here. Thanks for joining us. Mary Jo, we'll start with you. Was this a surprise that Kimberly Yee announced for superintendent of public instruction against a sitting Republican?
It was not a surprise that there is somebody going up against a sitting Republican. I didn't have her high on my card. I had a couple other names that I thought might be more appetizing to the Freedom Caucus, which was courting someone to run against Superintendent Tom Horne.
Yeah, were you surprised by this?
I was. I had her, talk about your card, and, we all do this. I had figured she'd be a lieutenant governor candidate. Now that we've got this new system where the gubernatorial candidate, when nominated, finally chooses a lieutenant governor, and particularly for Nandy Biggs, she could help balance the ticket a lot. She's also, we go back and we cover her when she was in the Senate as majority leader. She was never one of the bizarre right-wing crew. She certainly, has tried to, maintain the middle-of-the-road thing, which is how she got elected so handily a couple of times. And then to all of a sudden cozy up to the Freedom Caucus. And then to say, I also believe we don't need checks over voucher spending when she's been the state treasurer. It was a big surprise.
And Wayne, that is the issue, obviously, ESAs and vouchers. The Freedom Caucus saying that, what Howie said, basically no checks for these things.
Yeah, Senator Jake Hoffman, who leads the Freedom Caucus, has had an issue with Horne for quite a while now, going after him, saying at one point that he's the biggest threat to ESAs in the state, which is laughable for a lot of us who cover this stuff because Tom Horne's obviously a big fan of ESAs. But it all comes down to the fact that Horne has made at least some effort to reel back on what he considers non-educational expenses. The things we've all heard about, thousands of dollars on watches or exorbitant instruments, things of that nature. And Hoffman seems to believe that, any attempt to regulate the ESAs, it goes beyond the law, and that's a threat to the system. And based on what Yee said at her press conference introducing herself as a candidate, she's in line with him.
But Mary Jo, I think Tom Horne had a pretty interesting point, that if you do allow for $1,000 pen and $24,000 golf equipment and all this kind of business, that kind of questionable activity puts the program itself in jeopardy, because the masses are going to say, what's going on here?
Right. I think that is a point that many people have agreed with. Also, not to mention the effect on the state general fund. I mean, if the message gets out that you too can get free driving lessons, luxury driving lessons, or ski trips, that might incentivize even more people to sign up for the program. He's just trying to put some guardrails, and they're very, they're very generous guardrails on the program. They're nothing like what Governor Hobbs proposed about a year and a half ago.
And that's particularly the point. Not just that you undermine public confidence in the program and may encourage, but what Tom Horne said is, look, the parents are saying, well, the handbook that he puts out for the parents didn't say you can't buy a $5,000 Rolex. And he said, why would anyone believe that that was somewhere an academic exercise? Now, you can get into a slippery slope. For example, do you need an $8,000 cello? Well, if you're planning to be a professional cellist, maybe an $8,000 cello is much better than an $800 one.
I think it was $16,000.
I believe it was.
Yes. Yeah. So, I got the discount one.
You went wholesale.
It fell off a truck somewhere. But it's these sort of things that some of it should be obvious. And Hoffman's position and Yee's position now is, well, but the legislature never provided for that. Well, I think you could easily read into the legislation these are supposed to be educational expenses, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out.
Funding for a vasectomy testing kit?
I don't know why you're going to me with that question, but
I thought I'd throw it that direction.
it goes back to what Howie's saying, where it's like some of this stuff is common sense, and yeah, you can make an argument, letter of the law versus spirit of the law, what should be allowed and what shouldn't be. But it is interesting to see someone like Yi, who's been in a fiduciary position, essentially, now kind of going with this more liberal look at what should be spent on these items, which seems to be a political calculation to get this constituency that's important in the Republican primary on her side.
And it's one other important point that Tom Horn made. When a parent is denied reimbursement or funding, parent can go ahead, go to a hearing officer called administrative law judge, and then if you don't like it, you can go to the State Board of Education. Every appeal filed by a parent has been denied. So it's not a question that he or somebody, one of his deputies, is just being willy-nilly. They're saying, we've looked at the law, we've got an administrative law judge who looked at the law, and no, these are not fit as educational expenses.
A primary challenge against a state office holder, how unusual?
Yeah, somewhat unusual. Trying to think of the last time we had well, Michelle Reagan had a challenge for Secretary of State. In fact, he won and beat her in the primary. So they do happen. What's interesting about Yi is that she does have an education policy background. She likes to remind people that she was on the state Senate staff and did education policy. But she ran education policy for California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I'm curious to see, I don't think we're going to see Mr. Schwarzenegger out on the campaign trail or being invited to endorse her.
And I don't think we're going to see, obviously, that Kimberly Yi making any attempts for governor. I mean, it was
Not this cycle.
Yeah, a temporary attempt before. That was aborted, and then she winds up. I think some people thought she might try again, but no, obviously.
Yeah, and as Howie mentioned, she was then kind of thought maybe she'll go for one of these lieutenant
Yes.
governor roles. That being said, still a possibility. If the lieutenant governor isn't picked until after the primary, so if she loses this primary to Horn, then she's still potentially a candidate for that.
Yeah. Okay, so Howie, you got your Tom Horn and you got your Kimberly Yi in the primary for the Republican Party for SPI here. Who wins?
That's tricky because we've all been trying to figure out what is the strength of the Freedom Caucus. They can raise money. They have a solid base. I mean, this is what Andy Biggs is running on, and saying they can probably if you're backed by the Freedom Caucus, you figure 38% right there. Horn is not a great campaigner. He's not a great speaker. He's got some experience. He was a state legislator. He was school superintendent. Then he became attorney general, back as school superintendent. But I don't know. He has an inherent, list of political allies there. So I give it to Yi only because of the fact that if she can espouse something beyond vouchers, as far as education policy, and we pushed her on this at the press conference. What else do you believe? Well, kids should do better. Well, duh. But she needs to espouse something more.
Handicap early here at this race.
I'd probably lean towards Yi as well because she does have that kind of more moderate, for lack of a better word, Republican track record, and now she's pulling in another constituency with the Freedom Caucus in the primary, which gives her a pretty decent coalition if she can kind of hold on. I mean, it's tenuous, but hold on to both sides of the party there in a primary election.
And Mary Jo, we're speculating here, but Tom Horn, he has to decide whether or not he wants to run again.
Oh,
You think he's going to run again for sure?
I think, oh yeah, I mean, he was out on election day last November getting signatures on his nomination petitions. I mean, he started really early. He also has, he can self-fund,
Right,
and
right.
I'm not sure what else he wants to spend his money on, but he can put a lot of money into a campaign.
Do we know about Democratic candidates yet, or Democratic hopefuls?
There are a bunch of names that some of them have an education background, but no name that pops to the top. In other words, there's no state legislator who's got, let's say, Democratic experience, a Leila Alston, if you will, although I don't think Leila would be interested in this particular fight. But there are some legislative Democrats who would be good candidates, but so far they've decided, let's just sit back and see what happens here.
Same thing, no real names popping up?
Yeah, this would seem to provide an opening for a Democrat, given when you have a bruising primary,
Yes.
that always gives the other party an opportunity. But yeah, there's no names right now on the list. that jump to the top.
And this promises to be a bruising primary.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure there.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Mary Jo, sticking with you, it sounded like the Senate came back for like a day after 3 weeks off and then took no more time. What's going on at the Capitol, if anything?
Well, they're sort of just trying to stretch out the few remaining bills that they have to take action on until they can get to an agreement on the state budget. And by most accounts that I've heard, the anticipation is that they'll sit down and actually do the budget the week of June 16th. So we got another 2 weeks of little tap dancing or little, long weekends.
And that becomes the problem until suddenly they see the end, or like a skydiver and all of a sudden you're down at 250 feet and you're saying, I think it's time to pull the ripcord. Then the serious negotiations begin. I think everyone realizes, look, it's got to be a bipartisan budget. If it's an all-Republican budget, there's no way the governor is going to sign it. She has to get her things. They recognize that. Even Matt Gress, who's been involved with the negotiations, and one of the plans is to divide up some surplus where the governor gets some, and he's saying, well, wait, but there's certain things we should fund by ourselves. DPS raises should not be part of something that the governor has to do out of her own budget. So there are some saner voices, and I'll use the term very loosely, at the legislature.
Prop 123 was at one point a sticking point. Is it still a sticking point?
It sounds like it's not on the table for this year anymore. I think it was Capitol Media Services. Howie reported that the governor's not on board with this Republican attempt to attach ESAs to Prop 123, and to call a special election this year, they'd need the governor on board. It would be much easier to wait till next year, and where Republicans could send it to the ballot themselves.
That would be a crowded ballot, though, you're going to put it on.
Right, and that's a risk, and then that goes into the calculation of what do you put into a Prop 123 extension. Do you still want to try to marry voucher protection with higher pay, and should that pay be just for teachers, or should it be for other school personnel, and for how long should it last, drawing money from the state land trust, and what percentage of the land trust should you take, every year? So it on a very crowded ballot, it could make it, it could really slim down the proposal.
Well, speaking of slimming down, I mean, it seems like there are two things we're talking about here. That's not supposed to happen.
It's not supposed to happen. If you ask Republicans, they're all related because they're all education, and so then ultimately it's in the eye of the beholder, and the beholder may end up being the state Supreme Court.
I've got to say, and this is about a week old, but I called Senator J.D. Mesnard, who's been like the chief negotiator for the Senate on the Prop 123, and said, well, hey, wait, I'm hearing that this thing's probably dead. And he goes, well, no, it's not dead. It's like they say in The Princess Bride, it's mostly dead. And I just love that because, it's late in the session when you've got lawmakers quoting The Princess Bride, to support their position. There you go.
To your point, the court has, once upon a time, was a very strict rule about dual elements. In other words, it was kind of a log rolling thing. So if there's two elements in the ballot and you say voters would love this, hate this, but you have to take it as a package, the court said no way. They've kind of loosened it and said, well, if it's part of a whole. Now, I'm not sure that, look, I'm certainly no attorney, but I'm not sure that I could craft something that puts together a constitutional guarantee for state funding to go to private and parochial schools and homeschooling and micro schools and all that, along with a plan to take more money out of the trust to fund $4,000 teacher raises. I'll be fascinated to see what they come up with.
I'm fascinated to see what kind of number they come up with as far as what they have to work with. And if they have enough, are we going to see one of these things where everyone's get a little bit of money in the pot kind of deal?
We've heard that floated, I believe, coming more from the Senate Republican side. Now, a much smaller pot than we saw in the past. A little bit for the governor, a little bit for the House, a little bit for the Senate. But again, House Republicans sound like they might be a little bit more squeamish on that, want to be a little bit more fiscally responsible. But what all this shows is what happens when you push kick the can down the road this far on the budget.
Yeah.
You've got big issues that get left unsaid or unaddressed, whether it's Diamondback's bill that they're still trying to fix or Prop 123, and you still don't have a budget. So coming down to crunch time.
And what's really crucial is if you do a plan that, like they did a couple of years ago, where people get a certain amount of money to spend, even as we're cutting certain programs, even as the feds are cutting Medicaid, do you really want to go back to your district and say, oh, but I got you a roundabout. Look what I've done with your money.
Well, and speaking of which, back in the day, someone went back and said, look, I got you a rodeo, or I got you $15 million for a rodeo. And now the courts are saying, No, you don't.
Yeah, exactly. This was part of that very scheme that Howie just outlined 2 years ago. And some of the Prescott lawmakers earmarked money that would go to help the Prescott Rodeo expand. People sued. They said this is a violation of the state's gift clause, which means you can't just give money for a non-public purpose. And the judge agreed. I think it was a 9-page decision, and said this is not going to happen. And I don't think there's going to be any appeal. I mean, Representative Kwong Win, who was one of the sponsors of the legislation that would have provided this funding, said, well, I'm not going to run it again. I'm not going to try again. We're out of money.
Yeah. And again, the judge basically saying that there was no clear public benefit, and when you do something like this, you've got to show that the return is greater than the money you're getting.
And that's really the key part. He said you violated both halves of this. You know, you're giving money that's clearly, even though the words of the Prescott Rodeo weren't mentioned in there, it was some organization that happens to run a rodeo in Yavapai County. But you're giving money to a private group, so that's number one. Number two is you can do that. I mean, for example, in some ways, schools do that now when they contract with private companies to do education. But there is what the courts call consideration. What are you getting back? What is the public benefit? The public benefit in the case of schools is we're educating children. What is the public benefit of rebuilding the stands at the Prescott Rodeo? Judge said, beats me, and therefore you're not going to get to do this.
Yeah, will that affect, if they do have the 90-99 or whatever it is, as far as each House, Senate, and governor getting a certain part of the pie, if that happens again, does this decision impact how that money is spent?
It's hard to say because, again, it's such a smaller amount of money that no individual lawmaker is going to have the 15 mil to give over to the rodeo, so it's likely going to go to smaller things like a road or a roundabout, as Howie said, which are allowed under these rules. So I don't know if it will affect this, but definitely we could see it down the road the next time the state has some sort of larger surplus and they want to get everyone on board with a slush fund. Then lawmakers are going to be
How dare you call it a slush fund?
Did I say that out loud?
It's a balance. It's a structural balance.
I think a lot of lawmakers are going to be a little more hesitant to take that deal depending on the type of projects they want to bring back to their district.
You agree with that?
That they would not do?
Be hesitant. Have it in the rearview mirror when they're...
Probably. I mean, court ruling is pretty specific, and also just the larger issue that I think you referenced that Matt Gress had brought up is like, if you itemize all these tiny things in the budget so somebody gets a roundabout, but what are you doing for public safety pay raises? What are you doing for for education? What are you doing for disability services? I mean, you're sort of the legislature's there to work for the state good, not just for your district.
Wayne, we had a couple of debates here on Arizona PBS for Congressional District 7, Southern Arizona. This is the seat that Raul Grijalva, the late Raul Grijalva, held for 20 plus years. We'll start with the Democrats on Tuesday night. That was a livelier debate. Your thoughts, especially with Adelita Grijalva and Daniel Hernandez, who seem to be the two front runners, although I got to tell you, Deja Fox, young, kind of social media savvy, she made her mark as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult for all these folks to differentiate themselves from each other. As you said, the Democrat is almost guaranteed to win this seat, whoever wins the primary. And I think Daniel Hernandez tried to do that. I think he came out in support of mining companies, for instance, which was maybe a questionable decision to me in a district that elected Raul Grijalva for 2 decades, who's one of the biggest environmental advocates in Congress during his time there. But he did differentiate himself. That being said, they are the two front runners, but Daniel Hernandez did lose his last Democratic congressional primary by, I think, 20 plus points. So I'd put Grijalva clear ahead of him solely based on name recognition alone.
And Grijalva gets the support of Senators Kelly, Gallego, Representative Gabby Giffords, who has a relationship with Hernandez, for goodness sake.
But it's kind of, who's the establishment person? Adelita has worked in the system. Dad's worked in the system for years and years. She's got the name ID. I'm going to vote for anybody named Grijalva in that district. And so that becomes important. But she has a few areas that Daniel Hernandez attacked her on. For example, the city of Tucson had a proposal to hike the sales tax by 0.5 cent. Adelita was a big proponent of that. And Daniel said, wait, why are you trying to raise the taxes on people when they need the money? So she's got a few things she's going to have to explain to voters.
I would imagine, and again, it was claimed, who's most progressive for this particular primary election. That's important. The most progressive candidate in this race wins?
I mean, probably, although to the point, the name ID, I think, means a lot, and that carries implications of continuing certain policies and certain leanings.
And there's one other piece, and we've seen this, and you've seen this, Ted. You've got 5 people in a race. Depending on how they split it, look, even the guy who's come up with a plan of quote-unquote capitated capitalism, which I'm still trying to figure out, quite frankly, he's going to pick up a few percentage points, and that kind of thing in terms of who takes who. Deja Fox saying, I'm going after the Generation Z people. Now, they then not to turn out, and B, this can be a low turnout election being a special election, but she can be a spoiler, and who knows where that throws the race.
What did you make of her performance?
Yeah, I mean, I think she came out swinging, which was expected. She's a very polished speaker. As we said, she was a influencer officially for Kamala Harris's 2020 campaign. She spoke at the DNC. So even though she's 25, she definitely has a track record in Democratic politics. She's from Tucson. She has a very compelling story. Grew up relying on a lot of these social services that now she says Democrats need to fight to protect. So if, as you said, if the most progressive candidate, she might be the most progressive candidate in the race. It's just whether she can overcome the infrastructure deficit that she faces with donor lists and endorsements that she faces with the other 2 candidates.
Let's say she doesn't, but she stays in the race and still makes an impact. Where are the votes siphoned from?
It could, from a progressive side, it could be Grijalva. From a Tucson-based side, it could be from Hernandez. It's really kind of hard to say. She's kind of a very different candidate than she'd be the youngest member of Congress if she was elected. So she's a very different candidate. It's hard to say how she'll perform and where those votes are going to be taken away from.
And more to the point, now after the debate, whether the 2 front runners now attack her versus attacking each other so they can tamp her down.
Right. And real quickly, Howie, we had the Republicans last night. And again, this is such a Democratic 80 to 20 registration advantage. What'd you make of the 2 guys that were here?
Well, I mean, they were trying to decide who was better at kissing a certain presidential rump. They're all in favor of his deportation policies, his tariff policies. The one difference is that Rivas said, I don't have any problem with ICE going into churches and synagogues and schools. Whereas Gutierrez said, nah, that's not the way. Now, the interesting thing is Gutierrez actually ran against Raul last time, got about 99,000 votes. Now, he's saying, see, that shows if I'm running against somebody like Raul and I can get 100,000 votes, that shows I'm electable. Rivas is saying, you ran against a guy who was clearly disabled at the time, and you could only get 100,000 votes. So does that make you electable?
A little more graphic than that, but yeah, I think his point was that this was not necessarily a sturdy candidate. All right, Mary Jo, David Schweikert snoozing through a bill. What's this all about?
There's this really important bill that the U.S. House of Representatives wanted to get done last weekend, and I think the vote was at 1 in the morning. And I guess that's when some people sleep.
Yeah, after about, 36 hours, he said, of being involved in the negotiations, he just nodded off when the vote was taken?
Yeah, he said he went to get some coffee, 11th cup of coffee or something, and then next thing he knew, he was leaning on his desk with his coffee, getting there. I think Speaker Mike Johnson said that he was just coming through the door to put his card in when he had gavelled it out, so.
Are you buying this, Howie?
No, I'm sorry. I mean, look, that's Congresswomen have staffs. When they hear the bell that a vote is being taken, they come and they get their person, even if it means dragging their tush down the block and getting them to there. I don't know that Schweikert wanted to go on the record in terms of Medicaid cuts. And this was a way of saying, well, they didn't meet me, and I probably would have voted for it. But B, you don't really have me voting for it.
So you would rather go on the record as sleeping through the most important vote of the session thus far, as opposed to voting against that?
In his case, it may be better for him. I don't know.
What do you think?
I mean, that's sounds like sort of a dereliction of duty that, I slept through the vote. I'm not doing my job. And yes, I know it was a very long process and it was late and these things happen, but that sort of makes like you're not on the ball.
Yeah, campaign-wise, it's a bad lose-lose situation, isn't it?
I think it all looks at voter memories. Who's going to remember that he slept through the vote in a year? Who's going to remember that he voted for Medicaid cuts in a year? So I tend to agree with Howie. This thing only passed by a vote, so you'd imagine if they wanted him there, they could have gotten him there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it seems a little convenient that him and one other congressman somehow slept through this extremely important vote.
Yeah,
in the
I don't
middle of the
know,
night.
you know, even a year from now, if somebody runs an ad and they're playing lullabies, you know, in the background, you know, over some images, that will remind people
Well,
what
and
happened.
it will remind people, and that promises to be a contested again for him in that district.
Again, and yet this is a guy who was under investigation by the House, was essentially found to have violated certain ethics rules, and he still got reelected. So how vulnerable is he? You know, I think he figures, I'll keep my head down, I won't go out and do a lot of interviews, maybe I won't talk to constituents, and, you know, I'll just get reelected again.
Well, yeah, and that goes to the point, though, about, you know, cuts to Medicaid. Not a popular thing to, you know, be behind in a district like that, you know, where it's, there's people that understand the benefits of Medicaid, and also how, even though they're just going to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse, nobody's really buying that.
And that's going to come down to, again, messaging. I mean, you know, for example, the question is, if you are putting in work requirements actually is popular among both parties.
We have.
We have some in Arizona. Our own plan.
The bill calls for greater.
Greater things, you know, how many hours a week you have to work, who the exceptions are if you're pregnant, things like that. The question of re-verification, you know, people are saying, what, you can be on this a year without having to re-verify? So again, how does this get talked about when we're sitting around this table a year from now? Who knows?
All right, panel, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. That's it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great weekend.